Today on Pots and Trowels we're looking at herbs, which is brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden and Darlac. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, today I thought we'd have a look at herbs, because herbs are a fascinating group of plants that we can grow in our gardens, and the majority of them that we grow are hardy. Some are herbaceous and die down, some are woody and shrubby and evergreen, like this lovely rosemary here, and these can be grown either in the garden or in pots, and they've just got that most wonderful fragrance. You can't help just rubbing your fingers up the foliage to get the scent. It is wonderful. So I thought we'd just have a look at a few different types, and then I'm going to plant a container that you can enjoy through the autumn and the winter. So all of the ones I've got here are hardy. Things that aren't hardy are things like coriander and basil. They will usually die in the winter if they're left out as soon as they get cold. But these are hardy. Despite the fact they come from Mediterranean regions, they will stand it fairly cold. What they don't like is to be waterlogged. They don't like the roots to be soggy over winter. So wherever we grow them, whether it's in the garden or in a container, we've got to make sure that they've got good drainage. So I tend to grow quite a few in pots and containers anyway. And this is only a young rosemary that was put into this pot this year. But as you can see, it's made quite a lot of nice new growth there. And as long as that is kept somewhere fairly sheltered outside in the garden, ideally in a sunny position, or better still if you can put it against a south facing wall, that will really love it. And all I would do with something like this at this time of the year is probably just, you know, tidy around the pot, make sure there are no weeds or any bits of rubbish in there, just drop those in there, and that will be absolutely fine. Keep it watered, just moist, not too wet, and we'll be able to pick off that all the way through the winter. And then late winter, early spring, we get the bonus of beautiful little pale blue flowers in clusters all the way on the stem. Other herbs that are evergreen are things like sage, which we're going to look at in a minute or two, but also thymes. And thymes come in all different shapes and colours. Some are really tight and hug the ground and creep along. This one is slightly more bushy, this is a small leafed variegated one, and it's still in flower. This has been in flower now for about 2 months, and it's got the last few flowers coming on it. It is now coming towards the end of its flowering season. And what I will do with that when it has finished flowering is just trim that over very lightly to remove those old flower heads, and that will encourage it just to bush out a little bit more. But these flowers are amazing because on a warm sunny day when they are fully open, there are so many bees on thyme, so really good for attracting pollinators into the garden. Now this is a variegated one, often classed as an ornamental form, but they're still perfectly edible. You can use them all in cooking, in the kitchen, you know, when you're doing all sorts of dishes. So it doesn't matter whether it's golden, variegated or green, all thymes are edible. And the other thing to think about now are mints. Again, lots of different types of mints: spearmints, peppermints, apple mints, pineapple mints. This one is quite an unusual one. This one is a strawberry mint. It's got quite a fine leaf on it, and I wish you could smell this, because just by brushing the foliage there, I am getting a very strong scent of strawberries. More like the strawberry sweets you eat. It's not a true strawberry. It's a bit of a sweet, synthetic-y smell, but definitely strawberry. So you can use this in all sorts of drinks and things through the summer. But these are herbaceous. All mints will die back down to roots in the winter. So within the next month or so, this will gradually start to die down. But I'm leaving it because, again, it's now starting to flower. Mints have amazing flowers. Even common garden mint that you grow in the garden will have these tall spires of flowers on at this time of the year, lavender blue, and again really good for those late pollinating insects. So I'm going to enjoy the flowers, and then what I'll do with this, probably about another month, 6 weeks time, is get my shears and just chop everything off at pot level. That one can be put to bed for winter, and we can do the same with marjorams as well. We chop those down for the winter. This is another mint here. This one is a spearmint. This one got a different shaped leaf, as you can see on this one, quite a strong one. Now this one was trimmed down about a month ago, so it's made a flush of new growth, so we can continue to pick this one for just a little bit longer and enjoy it. So if you've got them in pots, just give them a bit of a tidy up and enjoy them. Put them somewhere sunny, and I'm just going to put these out of the way so we can look at some others, and they will carry on looking good for a while. Now at this time of the year you can often buy small shrubby, the hardy herbs in garden centres, just in small 3.5 inch pots like this one. This is just a young rosemary here, and then I've got a green leafed sage, which again is a good one to use if you're doing winter stews and casseroles and that type of thing, and a little thyme. This is a golden thyme again. Now if you want to grow these, you can do them decoratively. They don't look very attractive in these recycled grey pots that we get them in, so just get, you know, a small terracotta pot, and I would pot them in there with a bit of fresh compost. So I'd obviously take them out of their pots and then pot them in there with a bit of fresh compost. And if you've got just a little group of these either on a cool windowsill in the house, or indeed you could stand them outside on your patio, they just look nice and decorative through the winter months. And because you've put them in a little bit of compost, we don't need huge pots for them. They'll just make that little bit of growth, and all we do is keep them just moist and ticking over, and we can pick little bits off those. And it's surprising then come the spring they'll put on lots of growth and make good sized plants. But what I want to do for you now is to plant a herb container. We often think of planting containers of herbs and vegetables in the spring, but if you use the hardy herbs, then you can pot them now. So I've got myself here a container. It can be anything. It can be terracotta, it can be plastic. This is one of the galvanized pots that you can get that, you know, look great out in the garden, that vintage look if that's what you're looking for. And then I've got here a selection of different herbs. All of them are hardy. So we've got a creeping thyme there. Sorry, that isn't a creeping thyme. We've got a creeping rosemary there. We've got a variegated thyme and another golden thyme. We've got a sage, but this time we've got one with these really lovely purple leaves there, just to add a bit of colour, because we want this to look decorative as well as being usable for the kitchen. And then a green thyme there. So what I'm going to do is plant them all in this container so that this can be stood outside our back door. So when Jill says, oh, I could just do with a bit of thyme or a little bit of rosemary to make some sauce or garnishes for whatever she's cooking, I don't have to run down to the garden. I can just lean out the door and pick a few fresh leaves and sprigs. So I've got some holes drilled in the bottom of this. Drainage is vital. You must have good drainage. If you have a pot without drainage and it fills with water, these will die very, very quickly. And what I'm going to do, because there are only small holes in here, I don't want them to bung up with the compost. These are some holes I drilled in. I'm going to use some broken bits of plant pot and just put those in the bottom over the holes. You can see the holes are there. So by covering them all over with some broken pieces of plant pot, what that will do is stop the compost blocking those holes, and it will give nice free drainage around the plant. So just cover the holes up like that, and then we can add the compost to it. Now the compost I've mixed up is a mixture of multi-purpose compost in there, and I've added to it some sharp grit and some perlite, because again I need to make it so that this compost drains really well, and that I can feel that is nice and gritty, and the perlite will also help the air get through the compost and help with the drainage. So I filled that just over 3/4 of the way full. I'm then going to plant into it. Now how you plant it depends entirely on you, how you want it to look. You could plant it with a taller central plant, smaller plants around the edge, so you can look at it from all the way around. Or if you're going to stand it against the wall, which is what I'm going to do, then I'm going to plant it so that there's a taller plant at the back, and then they get lower and cascade out around the front. But experiment a little bit with it. So what I'm going to do is start off with the height at the back. So this is the purple sage. So I'm going to take the label out for now. I can always push it back in if I want to. Before you do plant them up, make sure they've all been given a drink first. Never pot any root ball that's dry. So, you know, an hour or two before, give it a drink, let it drain through. And then all I'm going to do, literally, it's so simple and so quick, make a hole, position that towards the back, because this is going to give me my little bit of height, and in that goes. So it really is as simple. We're not over firming it with these very loose friable compost, very sort of fibrous. We don't want to squash all the air out. That defeats the object. I'm then going to use the rosemary. This is the prostrate rosemary, which will cascade over the side. This is a great one if you've got sort of a rock garden also. It will work really well. I'm just going to plant that there like that. I might just need another handful of compost just to make sure that we've got the levels right. So that one will go nicely over there. And then I'm going to use the 2 times. We'll put one at this side. This is the golden thyme. That is absolutely wonderful. Really good are thymes. They've all got natural antiseptic and antifungal properties in them. So I often use them if I've got a sore throat. I will put some leaves in some hot water and gargle, and it just soothes your sore throat. And then I've got the silver thyme here, lovely little variegated leaf on there, and this one is just starting to produce some little pink flowers, so that's going to look nice in there just as a contrast. So I'm trying to get some ornamental value in this as well. Got a hole just there. Fortunately, I've got this small rosemary, so that one can go to fill that hole just there. Okay, just ease the compost around and lightly firm with your fingers. And then to finish it off, because I want this to look full, they're not going to grow a great amount, I'm going to just put a couple of small thymes in. So I've already got a golden thyme at the front here, so I'm going to put this one at the back, just in there. It fills that hole, and then the green thyme will fill this gap just here nicely. And that is it. Simple as that. Make sure that that is in there. Just check it over, make sure that you've got enough compost all the way around so the root balls are covered. Just any little arranging you need to do, and that is it. A very simple winter herb pot there. It's got sage in there, we've got various types of thyme, a couple of rosemaries, so we've got plenty that we can pick off. But more important, it will look really good right the way through the winter because everything is evergreen, and then come the spring it will make even more growth. So if you've got a sunny spot and you want something for the winter, I can highly recommend herbs. Well, there you go, herb pots now all planted up, and I know Jill's going to be making some marrow and tomato dishes soon, so we've got the herbs to go with them. Next week I'm going to be mowing to keep the lawns looking healthy right the way into autumn, so we'll see you then. Bye.